Hi, Matt. How are you
Hey,
doing today?
very good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure and an honor having you here today. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the 21st episode of the SERPs of the Week podcast. And today we have another beautiful rainy day here in the Netherlands. And I have the pleasure of introducing our very special guest, Matt Diggity. So, Matt, thank you for joining us one more time.
Pleasure's mine.
Okay, cool. And as an icebreaker, right, we ask the same question to all our guests. Well, why did you decide to go with SEO, right? Not with any other, other marketing activities?
Well, it's not like I started off as a marketer or went to school for a marketing degree and just decided, which one of these marketing avenues should I choose. I kind of fell into SEO by accident. So I'm an engineer by background, electrical engineering, if anyone cares, which they shouldn't, sucks. But anyways, I was working as an engineer, just dying in the cubicle life, 80 hours a week, and I was just looking for any way out. Someone gave me the 4-hour work week. I started reading that book, fell in love with this concept of making money online and geo arbitrage and freedom of time and location. And I went to a meetup in San Diego where I lived at the time, where they were discussing the book, and it just had turned out that most people at that meetup, the way that they were trying to find their way through into entrepreneurship was they were taking a course called the 30-day challenge. The concept was simple. They send you an email each day. You build a website one step at a time, and you eventually get traffic to that website and monetize it with affiliate links. Turns out that's affiliate SEO. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with, the ability to make money when you're sleeping. I fell in love with the idea of just like this idea of traffic coming in on autopilot. It's not like I'm working for every little visitor. It's like something that you set up and they come in exponentially if you do it right. And the biggest thing about that I think why I stuck with SEO and loved it from the beginning was it's very much like gaming. So I came from a gamer background, and I look at SEO
Mm.
like resource management. It's always just like, okay, we can write this much content, we can build this much links, we have enough staff to do this. Like, how can we optimize our use of resources at one time? And then Google itself, what is Google? Google's the leaderboard. Here's first position, so first position, second position, third position. So the gamer part of SEO just got me hooked, and I just haven't stopped since I started.
Yeah, I could relate to that. I used to play a lot of video games. I used to play, and I still kind of, whenever I have time, I still play Diablo, but the new one is just kind of horrible. So only
Is
the
it?
old one and Civilization, right? But I think it looks like more like Civilization, right? When you need to kind of, you have the resources and you need to understand where you need to allocate them in order to win, right?
Absolutely. I think of like StarCraft or like Warcraft, but Civ is like
Yeah, okay,
straight up
okay.
SEO, right? Civ is
Yeah,
definitely like it.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you're still like really into affiliate marketing, right?
Yeah, that's the main way I make money.
Cool. And so since today our topic is all about AI content, right? So I guess it really kind of, whenever the AI content comes, kind of Google or whatever it is, Microsoft, right, introduced AI content to us. It has started way easier, right, to create affiliate websites with the help of this content, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, any kind of
Okay,
content
so
in general just became easier.
yeah, for sure. It all comes right with the way you use it, right, and how you use it. And I
Hmm.
wanted to ask you about, right, my first question about AI content. How can businesses use AI generated content to their advantage? And for sure, affiliate marketers.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, if we look at SEO, what is SEO in general? I would say 90% of it's creating content, and building links, and we can play with how much you're going to dip in each of these things, but 90% of the time you're either doing one of those two things. And let's say this content category, which is usually the slowest and the most involved, and has the most team size and harder to manage. This whole category got completely optimized, both in how much it costs to create and how long it takes to create it. You're pressing buttons and getting content now, and for pennies compared to what you used to pay before. So it's really optimized. Like half of SEO, which is the content part, was just completely made, I don't want to say trivial, but almost trivialized. And so what comes along with that is it makes your team simpler too. Before you had a complex hierarchy of content manager, and reporting to them was content editors, and then your writers are underneath them, and then there's this whole like editing stage and all that kind of stuff. Now it really just is a tool operator, and what their job is to make sure that what comes out of the AI is fit to publish. And most of the time, if you got your prompting correct or you're using the right SEO software or AI content generation software, most of the time it is going to come out pretty darn close, ready to publish. So I think like this advent of AI has been a godsend, at least for what I'm doing.
Yeah, cool. But do you still think that there is any necessity of using, human editors, right? Whenever you create AI content, that's because not always, right? It's kind of sharing either the right perspective or sometimes even lying, right? So not all the thing that you kind of can from AI content is just kind of 100% true, and so on.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So at the beginning, I would say like a year and a half ago, like this was my same qualm about AI too. Where's the personal touch? Where is the unique firsthand experience? Where's the fact checking and stuff like that? It's putting hallucinations and incorrect facts into the content as well. What I've learned is, I mean, pardon my French, is that shit just doesn't matter. Like there's tons of websites that are just putting up that content directly on Google, and they're doing absolutely fine. We can talk more about that later, like why that's working and why they're surviving and stuff like that. But either way, I'm of the mindset of like, just because it works today doesn't mean I want to do it. I'm all like creating a portfolio that's long lasting, that can accumulate value, that I can exit later. I can't do that if I'm building a website in quicksand. So what I've learned since this like doubt 1.5 years ago is like we've just matured much better in our prompting and training the AI before producing the content, to take in a person's tone, to take in the right perspective, to analyze what is the reading level and the preferred like readability level of the target audience and things like that, and things like fact checking as well. So I mean, the surfer guys are probably going to kill me for this, but I think they probably want it to be common knowledge. But what Surfer AI does, for example, is it's going to scan all the top search results for their content before it starts to write the article itself. And so when it's doing that, not only is it getting like the entities, keywords, and phrases, so it can optimize that content exactly for what Google wants to see, but it's also analyzing hundreds and hundreds of facts that are in those articles. If it's an article about how to best grow a garden, like it's picking up fact here, hundreds and hundreds of facts, and it's using those to drive what goes into the produced article. So unless everyone else on page one got these facts incorrect, Surfer AI is not going to mess it up. And that's what I mean by the tools and the prompting just getting better over time. Like all these things that we were worried about a year ago are starting to go away.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And when it comes to tools, by the way, what kind of tools do you recommend using? What are your favorite ones, most probably?
Right. I mean, so I'm kind of spoiled. I'm an investor in Surfer, so I get Surfer AI, and I had a big hand. Right. I had a big hand in.
Here's a fat big secret, right?
I mean, I don't think it's a secret. I think it's pretty public, but yeah, I mean, so I had a big hand in designing it for exactly what I wanted in an AI tool. So that's what I'm using for content generation. But other than that, I mean, ChatGPT is like the Swiss Army knife we've all been waiting for. And I'm using that daily for stuff like social media repurposing, creating outlines for YouTube videos, sheet formulas, just like anything that requires me to think first goes to ChatGPT.
But it's kind of, they're using ChatGPT API inside Surfer SEO. Oh,
Well,
that kind of, there is a combination of ChatGPT and SERPs. So,
I mean, it's not, yeah, I mean, it's using like the GPT-4 models, turbo mode, whatever, like is the latest API. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Okay, it sounds critical. And I just want to circle back a little bit to, when you were mentioning prompts, right? What are the most successful ways, or maybe the easiest ways of creating those prompts and making sure that they're really working well for you, right? So maybe there is a step-by-step process that you can share with us.
I mean, okay, so like prompt engineering. So yeah, I just scripted a video. So like if you guys haven't met me, I do YouTube because I got sucked
Yeah,
into
we'll share the link in our description, right, to our video. So
right.
if you can kind of share it with me, but if you can kind of briefly maybe describe a few things, the most maybe important ones.
Right. Yeah. So I just scripted a video out for how to humanize AI content, and in that video, I'm telling the viewers like what are the things that you can do, what are the prompts that you can create and add before you start creating content in ChatGPT and whatnot. And for example, like one of them is like training the AI to write as a specific persona. You can have it read your about page. You can tell it to analyze an article that you wrote already, to pick up your the language you speak, the words you use, the tone you use, what target audience, what reading level you're writing at, all this kind of stuff. And so when I'm making that video and creating prompts like these, most of the time you start with just doing what the most logical thing you would want, how you would think it would best convey it to ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, here's my about page. Analyze it for readability, tone, da 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 da. Here's an article I wrote. Analyze it for these 3 things. Now produce content. Start with a sample piece of content, 200 words, just to see how they got it right. And most of the time they don't get it right out of the first time out of the cage. So what you then do is give it feedback and say, this one was a little bit overboard with the humor. I would say drop the humor down to a 2 out of 10 instead of a 6 out of 10, and make these small adjustments. And then you say, ChatGPT, now you tell me how to create a new prompt, rewrite my original prompt such that it would get this correctly the first time. And so that's the iteration loop. You try, you get the result, you critique it, and then you tell it to generate you a new prompt.
Sounds very interesting. So you're basically at some point you are starting to use ChatGPT in order to create new prompts just based on the previous kind of conversations you've had, right?
Yeah, because
ChatGPT
knows, like it does some stuff, like you'll tell it to do something and it just will completely ignore it. But if you ask it, how can I tell you, how could I have written that prompt in such a way that you will definitely not ignore that thing? It'll start giving you specific words that make it impossible for the ChatGPT to mess up. Words like strictly do not do this, or strictly do this, and ChatGPT will obey you. But you don't know that until you ask ChatGPT how to write its own prompts.
Yeah, obviously. So you're kind of asking ChatGPT to help you write the right prompt.
Yeah.
Which is great, actually. It's kind of, you're kind of basically finding the right words that work well for ChatGPT, just asking for the help from the tool itself.
Yeah.
Sounds fascinating, right? Maybe there is, a day when, will be time when we don't really need to communicate at all, right? ChatGPT will be kind of, creating everything just based on your previous conversations, right?
I'm mutually excited and scared about that dystopian scenario.
Yeah. But do you think, right, here is just kind of more like a generic question. So let's imagine if, right, tomorrow all the content will be AI generated content, right, with the help of those prompts. Do you think whenever you will be looking for something in Google, do you think you will be satisfied with the search results and with the quality of content, right, that you will see, in Google SERPs?
I mean, for the most part, I think so. Yeah. I mean, like, what is the state of Google right now? Google rewards content that matches what already exists on page 1, right? You try to write an article on the top 5 places to visit in Tokyo, and if you don't write a listicle, you don't rank. So Google already wants its search results to be homogeneous. And so what is ChatGPT doing? Or GPTs in general, they're just looking at the internet and training off of what's already working, and they're going to do more of the same. People are somewhat complaining about it now, but for the most part, those are like the minority of the internet. Like the SEOs that go on Twitter and say these results suck, but the 99% of the world is pretty happy with Google. Like, I don't think that if AI is doing more of the same, that anyone's going to even notice.
Yeah, most probably, right? If we talk about just, more or less an average, right, SERPs and what we see there, most probably it will be the same, right?
Yeah.
But I just wonder about something that a lot of ASOs and content marketers are talking about, is something like adding something unique, right? Whenever you look right at the top results and as a competitive advantage, which I'm not pretty sure whether it's true or not, right? Because sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. So whenever you add something on top of that, right? So, like something unique, you analyze the results and then you add something that is not mentioned, right? Across the page that you analyze. Do you think it's a good strategy, or it doesn't really make much sense, or whatever it is? What do you think about that?
Okay, so like in some circles, they call this information gain. Like you're adding something to the SERPs or the top ranking articles in your article that doesn't exist anywhere else. And so I've single variable tested this. So I do a lot of single variable testing. In this particular test, we took 10 articles on 10 different websites, 10 articles on 10 different websites, all in the same category. They're all about protein. And so what we did was, on this experimental group, we added a lot of content to these articles that were only found in like PDF documents, found in white papers that haven't been published, found just a whole bunch of facts from like conferences and stuff like that. Nothing that can be scraped from the internet, and certainly nothing that's found in the top articles on Google. And then let it sit for weeks, months. It's gone through algorithm updates. It's gone through multiple algorithm updates, and the experimental group and the control group are both at the same level. So I think that information gain is a nice idea. Whether I think it's in play in the algorithm, I don't think so. Why would that be? Is just because you wrote something new, how does Google know it's true? In fact, it's more likely that it's not true if no one else has talked about it before. So I think the algorithm is kind of stuck in a pickle right there. I do think that eventually this is the way that they'll go. So I am putting information gain in my articles. I am, especially in my AI content. It's very simple to do this as well. Adding information gain to future-proof myself. But do I think it's in play now? Nope.
Yeah, well, very interesting. Thanks for sharing your experiment. And that is actually, yeah, I think I kind of agree, because sometimes it really works, sometimes it doesn't work. So there is no particular, pattern, I would say, right, behind this, which means, it depends, most probably.
Yeah.
Which will be the right answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always the right answer.
And I just wanted to get back to AI generated content. And what was the most successful project that really, either 100% relied or heavily relied on AI generated content? And what was, the reason why? What was the main reason behind this project's success?
You mean of one of my projects, or like?
It might be your project, or it might be the one that you've seen so far, right? So kind of, built or kind of heavily relying on AI generated content.
Okay. So, I've seen some really successful like AI content sites, etc. I just didn't work on them myself, so I couldn't tell you the details of it, but I can tell you about the most successful AI project that we worked on. So about 1.5 years ago, we started a website in an affiliate niche. No need to tell you what that one is. And we went 100% AI with this one. So at the time, only Jasper was out. And so we were using Jasper. And our process was pretty simple. We'd look at the search results, and we'd look at the outlines, the H2s, the H3s of all the competition. We'd generate our outline based on those. And then we just have the Jasper generate content that goes in between those sections, and between those paragraphs. We publish it up on the site, and then we just let it sit. If that page's keywords made it to page 3 or higher, then we would optimize that content with Surfer, get the entities and all that good stuff optimized in there, and then it would have a chance to make it to page 1. So this eventually we abandoned that and just started using Surfer because it takes care of all that stuff in one step. But it eventually this website got up to $30,000 per month in affiliate revenue. And if we take a typical valuation multiplier for what websites are selling for, we essentially generated $1 million business in 12 months.
Yeah, this sounds very, very, and it's still kind of generating money, or you kind of sold this business just?
Sorry?
The one, I mean, like I was asking, is it still kind of generating money, this project, or you kind of sold this one? Or
no, so
what are the current state of things there?
Yeah, so this one, we're still working on it. It did get somewhat corrected. I don't think it got corrected because of the affiliate content. I think it just got corrected because this is something that happens with affiliate websites, like especially when you really attack it hard with content and links. Your first rise is always like this asymmetrical, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And then you get corrected. So it's had its correction. It's making about $22,000 right now, something like that. And we're holding on to it.
Yeah, okay. Sounds interesting. So do you plan to create more projects in that way, or you have some better ideas in how you can leverage the power of AI content?
I'm pretty much writing everything with AI these days, whether that's on sites from scratch or existing sites that I'm working on. Like there's AI in everything that we're doing these days.
Okay. Sounds interesting. So you're kind of basically, it's kind of 100% AI generated, or it's kind of, there is some percentage of content that you create with the help of real humans?
Real humans.
Or whatever it is, right?
I'm trying to think, are there any special cases where we're getting a real human to write? Oh, well, yes. I mean, some stuff that's like not meant for like SEO traffic and keyword optimization, like my SEO news roundup, a real human writes that. Like my YouTube script, a real human writes that. Stuff that needs to convert, my sales copy, real humans involved. But fodder content that's used for SEO and building topical authority, that needs to be produced fast and needs to be produced in volume and through strict standards. And you can guide your AI to fit those standards and produce that content like it's nothing on the cheap. And that's the best way to go right now.
Okay, then since you work a lot with AI content, I just want to ask something about Google. How proficient is Google at detecting AI-generated content? And maybe there is any strategy that can be employed to actually prevent this detection?
So OpenAI released a statement saying that AI content is undetectable unless there's a watermark at play implemented. And there's no watermark right now. So if we can go by what OpenAI is saying, then it's undetectable. That said, Google is good at detecting shit content. That is what Google is. Google is a content judger. It judges content, decides it should go to the top or the bottom of the search results. That's essentially what Google is. So it can figure out if content is shit. So the name of the game is like, sure, AI, it can detect AI content if it's shit. So just don't create the shit content, which boils down to like what tools you're using, the prompts you're using, and that kind of stuff.
So it all comes down, one more time, we're circling back to prompts, right? So your prompts should be really good. Otherwise, it's not going to work, right? So that is actually where you need to, invest enough time and effort.
Yeah. And it's not like, I'm not trying to keep like this big secret of like, here's a magic prompts that I get and no one else gets. It's pretty simple. Like there's a list of 7 or so things, right? First is training the AI who you are. So training it on what you've written before, what you've done, feed it your about page, feed it your content, let it learn to write like you. The second is to include personal experience. So like you can, before you say, write me some stuff, you can say, here's what I think about EAT. Make sure you include it in this article, stuff like that. Then there's like the fact stuff, like making sure the facts are correct, right? Especially because GPT is only trained up to January 2022. So anything that's happened since then, it's just going to get wrong, or like just we'll say we don't know. So you got to feed in that kind of stuff manually, or like I said, I'm not here to sell Surfer AI, but Surfer AI scrapes the top results for the facts. Perplexity and burstiness. So perplexity is like, you've probably seen this before. Like, have you ever seen AI content that has words like in the realm of, or in the world of, or there's these like giveaway words that are really, really common if you don't use any special prompts with ChatGPT. So you got to tell it to have perplexity. Don't always use the word that's most naturally going to use. Vary it up. Don't be optimal with its word selection. Burstiness is, if again, ChatGPT right out the box is going to have the paragraph lengths all the same, sentence lengths are all like 8 to 12 words long. So telling it to be bursty means we're going to have short sentences, we're going to have long sentences, 1 sentence paragraphs, 4 sentence paragraphs, etc., which is more human, much more human. Get rid of all the fluff, and then analyzing the target audience. So like you tell it, you're like, here's my audience, here's how old they are, here's what reading level they like, here's what kind of humor they want sprinkled in, that kind of stuff. And you could also just say, read my articles and say, tell me what you think the target audience is like, and then write for that.
Yeah, it's kind of right. It's just, I just thought that it can be done in the following way as well. You can kind of take any Reddit profile of a quite well-known right person and just ask ChatGPT, right, to take the tone, right, and to take that kind of persona. So you don't really need necessarily to have a persona, right? You can take it from the internet. It's even more interesting, right? So you can basically write with the help of Reddit and other, open kind of, user-generated communities like Quora, right? Totally. You can create personas, right, in literally in any niche.
Yeah, you can have it like The Rock. You can have it be Kevin Hart, anything you want, Einstein.
Yeah. And I just have one question about Google, right? About search generative experience. Why do you think Google postponed releasing search generative experience this year, right?
I mean, I think it comes down to money, right? I think they looked at what is the impact going to be of them pushing down the SERP result, and then the ads go lower, and also cannibalizing traffic from websites that have Google Display Network ads on them. And they see, okay, well, did we improve the usage of Google? Did we improve adoption and engagement? Did value add to Google more than it's going to offset how hard it's going to hit us in terms of the ad revenue? And I think the answer was no. So they're delaying it until they can figure that out.
Do you think it's kind of the future of search generative experience is similar to, let's say, like Google Voice, I think, right? Where, everyone was talking about, that is a new area of the whole new search engine results when you're going to interact via voice with Google and so on. And then it's ending up with having, a small button that you can kind of use whenever you need it.
Not really. So like, I do think AI will eventually get its foothold. It might take 5 years, 7 years, I'm not sure. But, I listened to a podcast with Mark Andreessen. Mark Andreessen was one of the founders of the internet. Like, he's the guy who decided whether hyperlinks when unclicked were blue, and when they're clicked, they turn purple. Like, he's got a lot at stake in how the internet works right now. And he probably thinks of it as his baby. And I even heard him say that, this way of, you search for an answer or something, you're presented a list of places where you might get the answer, then you have to open that place up and then find your answer. That's going to seem archaic to us at a certain point in time. At a certain point, we should just be able to ask an AI, get the answer right away. And so I think right now it's trying to figure out how to transition to that. And that might be years. That might not never even work via text. It might only be like a voice thing, or something that's used in augmented reality or whatever. I'm not even sure, but it doesn't seem like the model, the approach that they're going for right now is really working.
Yeah, I understand. So it just takes time, most probably, to find the right way of using this model and integrate it in, in their current business model, because that is the main question, right?
Right.
So how to monetize it right?
Yeah.
And
Well, let me
sorry.
expand on that for a little bit. So like when I say this stuff around my friends, like their faces go pale and they're just like, so you're telling me that I need to find a new job. So like, no, it's not really like that. So like, if we think about like what we're doing in SEO is we're basically just entrepreneurs. We're entrepreneurs, and the flavor of the day is SEO and how we make our money. But new opportunities are going to open up, especially with AI. There's going to be a whole new set of opportunities. And who in the world is in a better position to capitalize on a new world of search that's powered by AI? It's us. We're the ones that deal with AI on a daily basis. We're the ones who've been tuned into the news from the beginning, and we're the ones that have been entrepreneuring in this exact field the whole time. It's just, are you going to be agile enough to pivot? And I hope so, because you've been trained for this moment. We're more than any other professional on the planet.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the matter of seeing, right, and taking advantage of newly arise opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So it's just whether you can really see them, most probably at very early stages, just because sometimes it's just, you want to kind of join, but it's too late. So,
Maybe.
that is the main, I think, moment, maybe. Yeah. Okay, Matt, thank you very much for the great conversation. I have the very last question, right? To be very short, do you recommend using AI content? And if yes, right, so what will be the biggest advantage, right, for, let's say, affiliate markets, for business owners of using AI content if they are still considering or not sure whether they need this type of content?
Yeah. For me, the biggest advantage of using AI content is to be able to hit topical authority status in a niche faster. So like for those new to this term, topical authority, it's when you cover a specific topic, let's call it apples, more than any other website on the internet, or you're at least getting up there. You're competing with all the other top Apple websites on the internet because you've just written that much content about apples, 400 articles or something like that. To write 400 articles on apples, human, is going to take you forever. To write it with AI, you can get there a lot faster. And so if you can use AI in such a way where you can figure out what are these topical clusters that are going to make your business the most money, and then hit them one at a time. Don't write one article on this and one article on that and one article on that. It's just going to spread out how fast you get to topical authority in these 3 different sections. Hone in on one, get it all done before the next Google core algorithm update, because that's when they reevaluate topical authority, and you'll see your business transform.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your advice, Matt. And thank you very much for joining us today. That was a pure pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.